Kristen Eliason's latest book, Picture Dictionary, unsurprisingly takes the form of a dictionary. That form lends the text authority, and the Japanese katakana that accompany the section hint at meaning by their image alone. It never feels gimmicky, though. And between these is a great deal of cultural interchange and grappling, where the struggle to make meaning becomes itself meaningful. Basically, you will all want to purchase a copy of the book as soon as the reading ends. Now let me tell you a bit about her background. In addition to her picture dictionary, she also has written a chapbook called Yours. She holds an MFA from the University of Notre Dame, where she was the Sparks Prize recipient in 2008. She is a co-founder and editor of the online literary magazine Menagerie. She lived in Japan back in 2006 and currently lives in Northern California with her husband and their dog. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Eliason.
Thank you. That was really nice. Am I in the right direction for this directional mic? Okay. I just want to start by thanking all of you for being here, thanking the English department for having me, especially Steve Tuttle and Kimberly Johnson for inviting me to be here. It's a real treat to be back. I also want to thank my family for being here. They are awesome. I want to just dive in with an older poem that I worked on for many years. It was a rumination on cuddling, and I feel like that happens a lot at BYU. I know that from experience, actually. So I was thinking about when you're cuddling, when one of you always has to have the weird arm in between, and it, like, you kind of just, there are too many arms there, and I feel like it's always me that has the weird thing going on. So this is adjacent developmental displacement. Call it awkward arm, this crumpled chicken limb, a tiny wing folded between two people in rapturous proximity. Couched in each other's breath, one shoulder under the neck forces one half to equal the square root of pi. The tingle is numb blood divining light. The radius, a mere gelatin print of no regular tennis elbow. One atrophies in the midst of writing love letters, carpal tunnels from an extended wrist pinned against the cushions, bed, floor. It can't find the proper preposition around this recent discovery. The axillary limb leaves linear, levels its pleasurable dysplasia. So thank you for plugging my tiny little chapbook. I love this little guy. This is a series of poems that I wrote in epistolary style. And during my MFA, I actually worked on this very condensed project. When I was living, let me back up one step further. When I was living in Japan, I lived on an island that has a series of 88 temples that pilgrims will often walk to in order. They'll spend months doing this pilgrimage. And I thought, well, there's no way I'm walking to 88 temples while I'm here, but maybe I'll write 88 haiku as my own sort of pilgrimage journey through Japan. And that is something that I eventually developed into my thesis. And having worked in these very condensed little nuggets of poems, I wanted to attack the story from a more lyrical/narrative perspective. So this is yours. They are letters written from B to T. Dear T, tonight I read things that were small and beautiful and rested like a bird's fluttering chest in my hand. The ring I've discovered is wearing away the skin on my finger, and so I've had to settle for looking at it in a silver dish on the table. Everything you touched has become artifact. Yours, B. Dear T, the flight was long and I mistakenly asked for seaweed by nodding at the wrong end of a question. It was cold at altitude, The man next to me, for much of it, too convivial for the situation's gravity, asked me straight out if I had farted. It occurs to me now that you two won't believe me when I say that I hadn't. I said that if I had farted, I would admit to it, and perhaps that part was a lie. I was given a fruit cup of mandarin oranges instead of a cookie. Trays up for landing. Yours, B. Dear T, a woman in a restaurant made entirely of wood gave me, finally, a map. One side is in English. I run my fingers over the words Kaonji, Ehime, Kokubunji. And for the first time, everything that is green on a map is truly green, every line complex as a basket. From the balcony, the view of the parking lot is famously bad. The ravine hosts turtles sunning themselves on some sort of embedded pipe. A single cherry tree shades the concrete. It's beginning to turn. Yours, B. Let's have a water break. It's really dry here. Dear T, the train sways like a full-hipped tightrope walker. The heat on the way to Osaka was so oppressive, and Oba-chan began fanning me with as much motherly care as I've been shown. Osaka has a Ferris wheel with a view of concrete buildings. I took one picture from every angle inside the tiny flying car, and all 12 prints look precisely the same. Less afraid of waking up in strange places, still cannot sleep without your broken bones. Yours, B. Dear T, toward Ehime, a slight girl wanted to touch my hair, which has begun falling out for the second time, like, happy anniversary, you're bald now. You can have it. The train stitches frames at rate times rail over flash, flash, like this. Rice, box, bell, oak, shut, thread, open, skin, blink, Fuji, eye, sugar, bridge, 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 drop, ash, steam, finger, thorax, anchor, bone, Yorick, book, sprouts, sumimasen, ladies and gentlemen, the next stop is Toyohama. Toyohama desu. I thought you looked nice. That scar is going to leave a wicked scar. Dear T, the tide is out, and nothing but a mask of gray netting elements in small false binaries. Oba-chans come in from digging clams, bucketed shoulders, backs meeting sky, their spines rounding toward the earth like shrimp. I walked faster, looked for an exit point, a jumping place, so I could feel our wings explode from my thin-skinned shoulder blades, a parachute carried and redeemed, yours, hot and muscular, mine, small and ink-soaked and blood-soaked and painted in oil. Yours, B. So I'd like to read a little from my book, Picture Dictionary. It's really pretty. And I'm really excited about that because actually my roommate from BYU was able to draw the cover art for me, and it turned out to be quite meaningful to me. To backtrack on this idea of the dictionary, while I was in Japan teaching English, we would often use a picture dictionary that had a word in English and Japanese and then a picture, so that if you couldn't figure out by context that you wanted an apple, you could sort of point to it. And in that way, we would triangulate meaning, essentially, which was particularly important for me being a person steeped in language who found herself totally illiterate. So I'll read a bit from this book. Organizationally, I'll just hold up this page. It's based on the katakana syllabary. For those of you who are familiar with the Japanese written language system, you know there are three, let's say, alphabets. Katakana in particular is for foreign words, and as a foreigner, sort of forcing myself and my experiences on this dictionary conceit, I felt like it was the most useful vehicle. In addition, the chapters, as you may call them, are organized by by a series of poems called Hanami, which is cherry blossom viewing. Ka, participle. Figure 2, an orange lost in a grocery store. 1. Do, did, is, was, are, etc. Catch all questions of nationality, gender, and produce. Oishi desu ka? Does it taste good? 2. Or, are ka, kore ka, this or that. See also seedless varieties. Ka, noun. Figure 3, cubicles filled with children's toys and machinery. An office. 1. Welcome to the educational department. Rooms full of 2 small chairs and backaches, felt fruit for pelting children masterfully. 1 large wall-side map that holds all Disney worlds as equals among one's fates. Key, noun. Figure 7. The nearest mountain rounded over with deciduous trees, or an abstraction of a mountain rounded over with deciduous trees. 1. Spirit, soul. 2. Feeling. 3. Intention, inclination, specifically the desire to speak. See also blood type as personality profile, egata. Kibo, noun. Figure 8.1, the form of a dove descending over the concrete ravine. Figure 8.2 maps the locations of internal recognition as follows. The gray of a housed winter. You must have at least 1 cold season per session. B, the white fire of at least 2 opened trees, corollary umeboshi, with or without rice. C, a bath in every prefecture, located primarily by steam. D, Obon, the festival of the dead. 1. A laundered intention, clean wish, white lie. 2. A greeting in formal situations, often accompanied by large boxes of chocolate for everyone in the local language factory. Shinohara Eka, greetings and expressions of goodwill. Oh, you are like Japanese. You are like Japanese. Arigato. 3. 1 domestic round-trip ticket to Okinawa under the circumstances of figure 23B under the auspices of C. She takes an extra day and lies about it. Reference 2003 Goda Miyuki, an operator's manual, 44. I am so angry. Just kidding. Haha. She apologizes later, faithlessly, and under no circumstances will she be fired in the rainy season. If she can touch the barbed wire of the Gunji Kichi and run back, she's safe. 4. Exhaustion. A. The finish comes early this year. B. Hanami brings fish in the spring. Ko. Adverb. Figure 18, a summer kimono, yukata. 1. This way, everything like this, so much like this. 2. Everything happened in this manner. First, a star streaking its tired old body across the map of your hand. Second, a synchronized ballet of crane excavators. Third, and climax, a grassless plot. Denouement becomes rice. While I was in Japan, I went to church every week, almost. And it was an interesting situation, to say the least. So going to church in this small, cold, or alternately very hot concrete building sort of runs thematically through the book, in addition to I can't say anything else that's not trite about what it is, so we'll read. Right, noun. Figure 259, the pictures. 1, soul. You study the state of the soul in a concrete building that's cold in the winter, hot in the summer. You wear your coat to play the keyboard in organ mode, and the congregation sings from their katakana hymnals. In Sunday school, you take notes, concentrate, make signs of string and paper, draw wings and moons and stars. 2, ghost, holy and otherwise. You mumble to yourself when you're not paying attention, telling him about your day in fragments and full reports. You start with God, but somehow in the middle you've hemorrhaged. You're talking to him instead, and this innate deification punctures the bird in your chest, 3 in 1, in purpose or in body, cradled within. 2006, Franklin J., translating the holy word, page 42, texts wrapped in fiery tongues. Skeet, noun. Figure 104, a deaf mute. 1, fondness, love, what she won't admit to anyone. Anyone can know this. She'd said it. She'd said the word to him after it threatened to leap from her mouth like a flying fish. Its tiny fins flapped as fast and as hard as they could to stay airborne, but when it ultimately dropped into the residual silence, the plaid bedsheets resounded with something like a strung fish making its last attempts at swimming through the air, dumb, strong, then limp. Let me back up. Saiko suru, noun. Figure 34, a schoolroom professor asks, is this about awake? You know, awake? 1, reconsider. He begs you to reconsider or consider in the first place your carefully recorded memories. You want to ask whether you should remember the polished wood so well. Everything is covered in saccharine scent. You've thought it over, and is he at least in there? You'll stand in the corner with your eyes nearly closed if they'll just open the shiny lip over his torso. You get a little closer and look as little as you can at his face. Look again, but don't count the stitches over his closed eye or the length of his eyelashes resting over such a pale swath of skin. Consider how you'll ever get back from the sovereign nation of Japan. When she interviews you, she'll want to know why you're interested in Japan. You're unsure whether or not your feelings are genuine. His voice falls over the side of your cheek like water clouding the inside of a glass, each word a crystalline condensation, constellation, the ethereal map ready to evaporate at your first hesitation. Re-examine. Everything you've seen was through a microscope. Sakaku, noun. Figure 47, a glass case, a meeting. 1, illusion. An underground food court with large tiled floors features sealed glass cases of plastic food. Plastic scrambled eggs, plastic curry, plastic gratin, plastic puff pastry, plastic ice cream, plastic shrimp, plastic udon with soup, plastic soba, plastic fish heads, plastic rice, plastic fruit cups, plastic sushi, plastic beer, plastic unidentifiable food bowl, plastic spaghetti, plastic toast, plastic parfait with plastic fake corn topping. Point to your lunch. 2, misunderstanding. Samatsu verb. Figure 54, the twin sheet set. 1. She wakes up too hot to his hand, sweeping her hair back behind her ear. He's saying something so quietly, he falls her back to sleep. She wakes up, and again, he's already looking at her, this time from the twin mattress they dragged in. She pulls her hair up and asks what he would have for breakfast if he could have anything, except for eggs, which she doesn't know how to make. She stands at the stove in her satin and cream-colored pajamas, his sweater pulled over her top, cracking eggs into a bowl for French toast. They talk about getting tickets to the game. His arm slides around her waist. His sister calls, and for the last time, everything is the way it should be. Son. Figure 56, a stained mouth. Okay, this is weird. Maybe I should back up on this one. While I was in Japan, my employer decided to make a video type, like a leapfrog type product that featured not me, but my mouth saying words in English. And so they wanted me to wear this bright red lipstick and record my mouth. And so they started calling me Ms. Mouth or Coochie-san, which was also weird. 1, Mr., Mrs., Ms., and remember to shave your upper lip. Her boss says, I hope it's not rude. Is it rude to say, shave your upper lip? 2, Coochie-san, Ms. Mouth. Ryo wears dark glasses inside and won't turn on the aircon because you can hear it behind the camera. In Japanese, she looks like a psychopath with that lipstick on. No, she doesn't. Kawaii ne? 3, Ms. Mouth, Miss Lips. They've never seen lips like yours in real life, and when the children touch the electronic pen to the pad, a close-up of your mouth saying lips, lips, plays on a tiny computer screen. Her mouth becomes a registered trademark, and she's forced to pay royalties per syllable uttered. Shikari suru, verb. Figure 76, the shape of a plane. 1, become strong. 2, get a hold on oneself. Okinawa came on like a cold sweat. 2 stops from the monorail, there's a wet-tiled business hotel with a concierge who tries especially hard to remember and pronounce her name, which sounds like question. In 3 days, her hair has begun falling out again, a happy anniversary gift at the shower drain, at the corners of the carpet. She spreads the year-old pictures of him in order on a double bed that nearly fills the entire room. The archive lies quietly next to her until the morning he drowns in again. The rain shifts uncomfortably down the window, settling its tiny falls against the landscape of his birth and early childhood. She flips the old United States Uniformed Services identification and privilege card over. Date of birth, January 5th, 1982. Place of birth, Camp Kauai, Japan, medical, civilian expiration date. They had argued over whether or not to come here, married or unmarried, and if not, how would they ever manage to live alone on an island without screwing up their lives? She didn't know. And what to do now that she was here with this body of film and paper. Find the beach, stand outside the chain link fence, and imagine the inside of an old hospital. Watch the Air Force fly their planes on and off the side of an island. Shikyu, noun. Figure 77. A college roommate walks you through the door of an unfamiliar apartment where waiting in the back is everything that was extracted. 1, uterus. 2, for a long time her sleep is featureless, blank, and necessary. She imagines him like a pillow pressing on her low back, and this calls something. Spiders touch their tiny teeth to the skin of her torso, and whether or not they are fighting, she can't tell. She's found him by the side of the road, and they're late for the prom, but shouldn't we stop here for dinner first? A dinner party, yes, of course we should. And there are clear plastic cups like petri dishes passed around in hand. And now, yes, of course, I'll hold her for a moment. Could you hold her for a moment? But she looks very much like you. Whose baby is this anyway? Where did you get this baby? Whose baby? Suspicion directed at her womb. She might, noun. Figure 80, the figure of a street, wilted twin girl. One sister in. S. Green, Only Hearts, page 153. You know she's really hot until you realize that she looks exactly like the girl version of her brother, he said, having won the last round of bowling. S. Winchester, Piers and Warehouses, page 77. Inside a warehouse remodeled as a bowling alley, several vending machines line the back wall. One inserts the correct amount of change, selects a shoe size, and leather-soled bowling shoes are vended like Diet Coke and chips. Lift the plastic cover to extract clown shoes. 2. Sisters. At church, they call her sister, and this feels like it could be the small nunnery she got herself to. The building is dank and feels like cement with partitions in the main room. A class for English, a class in Japanese. She plays the organ, sings in the choir, teaches the English Sunday school, and occasionally speaks, although translation is necessary and arduous. 3. Ambarin Shimai, her roommate, has 8 brothers and sisters and will tell you about them in depth the first time you meet. A great conversationalist, you have a lot to learn from this gab-gifted girl, her older sister Jealousy and her younger sister Cheerleader. Enjoy her company equally, and she's often needed on the phone that is a microphone wired to her new and freshly stickered laptop. See also the lack of family pictures in the main album. Shinkansen, noun. Figure 88, a map of pigmented clouds. 1. Bullet train. 2. She loves the bullet train so much that according to roommate's suggestion, she may just marry it. 3. Roommate gets the idea that we should both call in sick on Friday and take the Shinkansen to Kyushu. At the museum, there are clouds on book covers and canvases, and a chair in the shape of a bird's nest hanging from the ceiling. You curl up inside and swing just enough to catch up with the Earth's slow rotation. Shinken na, adjective. Figure 89, the keystone orange at the bottom left-hand corner of the pyramid. 1. Earnest. 2. Sincere. The smallest person you've ever seen, and like an inevitable cliche, a heart the size of her sweet fist, larger than the sum of its ventricles. Mei looks down away from the camera, her glossy black gaze running over maps, instructions, timetables, and tickets she would paperclip to your shirt. Okay, begins every sentence. Understanding indicated in her earnest posture. Tiny hero, you stay me here. Shimpai, noun. Figure 91, the corner store. 1. Anxiety. 2. Worry, but completely blank. For nothing that hasn't already happened. She draws a map of how to get back to her apartment from here, where the school and the train station are. Her lower eyelid moves involuntarily. Again, look at this. You can actually see your eyelid twitching. It doesn't stop when you touch it or catch it in the mirror. It just goes about its business without letting you interrupt. Thank you very much. Suai, noun. Figure 99, a set of wooden tories at hillside of the inland sea. 1. Adoration, worship. She thinks to him, and she's always thought as prayer. The closet becomes her silent face. We pray to our ancestry, Xiaozu explains, residence, a stake in our future, pinning it to the ground they rest in, over, around. 2. Does this walk toward the end of the island become a prayer when, pressed, she absent-mindedly speaks his name out loud? Did I say that out loud? No, she narrates her life again to her lover in this silent, brain-side devotional. 3. Bread is passed in trays to the members of the cold concrete building in Marugame, and this takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes that roughly equal a small time to reassert oneself to God. She holds a paper-made wax thread-sewn book and inks wings on her best and steadiest pen. This is the time she's afraid of, her lover and God becoming synonymous and separate beings. So I'll read a few of the Hanami sections from the book to finish. Hanami, noun. Figure 1, cherry blossoms cascading toward the base of the falls. 2, a kamikaze fighter pilot, or what are you giving your flight for? He wraps his headband tight, climbs to the top of the tableau, takes an exuberant leap. Hanami, noun. 3, we spread our blankets and looked for you in the star-shaped cloth of its blossoms, each beautiful in purpose, in white, ignited fall. Hanami, noun. 4, we waited in the sparse grass, chests thrust toward a veiny network of branches. The arteries feel slowly white, exhale quiet briefness to ash. Hanami, noun. 5, the trees undress in the warm afternoon, unabashedly shedding their pink lace frocks as frilly underthings bask in their own sensuousness, as slender arms beckon to the softly made bed as to asleep in the early afternoon. Hanami, noun. 7, and the nation stops to watch the quiet terror of a fall, the tree's tenuous waltz between death and preservation. Hanami, noun. 9, the shushing sound in your lungs. Rain washes your window with white translucent petals. The petals wash your window with their sodden bodies. The sodden body washes over your glassy face. The glass reflects the translucent petal of your face, holds a sodden body washed like rain. Thank you. So I guess there's time for some questions. Yes?
Why did you choose the format of a dictionary, and what challenges were there in trying to write like that?
That is an excellent question. The format of the dictionary came about sort of organically because I used the picture dictionary so often teaching English, and also a translation dictionary often in trying to construe meaning out of where I was. In addition, this book also serves as an elegy, and I believe it felt necessary for me to create a reference material for navigating both a country that I was unfamiliar with and grief. In terms of the difficulty of creating a translation dictionary, I feel like there's this sort of desire to be really faithful to the idea of a dictionary actually translating something, and the idea of organizing something by way of katakana is really sort of a false construction that I still felt was necessary. So I think there were some just technical challenges in terms of deciding what the dictionary should actually accomplish. Great question. Yeah.
So one common complaint from poets that I hear is that the speaker of the poem is not necessarily the author of the poem, and to conflate those two is frustrating to some poets. But this seems to be intentional, and I wonder how often the poem took over from the memory and took you places that weren't part of the actual. Like my students want to know often how do you write away from, you start with personal experience, but how do you let yourself write away from that? Maybe you could just talk about allowing the poem to take over from personal experience.
Sure. I think that's a really astute observation. That both the speaker begins as the poet here, and also that it moves away from that throughout. I felt like I needed to honor both my experience and the poems themselves as they were taking shape, and as the images sort of pulled themselves together, I felt that maybe the recorded historical truth was maybe not paramount anymore, and maybe that's where the self and the poem begin to separate a bit, is weighing out what's more important, the historical veracity or the work itself, if they do begin to diverge. And so in terms of making those things diverge, I'm not sure exactly how to be prescriptive in that manner, other than trusting yourself as you're writing, maybe to just see where it goes and allow it to fail horribly if it does. So, does that answer your question? Cool. Yeah.
There were a couple of examples where you took intransitive verbs and changed them into transitive verbs, like he falls her back to sleep. Is that something, was that verb like transitive in Japanese and you just translated it, or is that due to studying the language, or is that just because I wonder about like the play on words of like being a bad translation or mistranslation, but I don't know.
There's definitely issues of mistranslation and bad translation, and I am an untrustworthy translator at best. I would say that more often than not, I felt like I wanted to represent the disorientations, being totally disoriented in pretty much every sense of the word, and I feel like that was probably more of the driving force behind those verbal shifts. Yeah.
One question, Patrick Madden, our first speaker of the series, talked about his writing process being like binge writing, and his audience, his authorial audience, was basically Americans in general, communicating an American experience. Like, what would you say your writing process is as far as when you write, how you write, and how do you select your authorial audience?
That's a very good question. Process, I feel, is very personal, and again, to be prescriptive with it, I think is maybe a misstep. But for me, I feel like keeping the muscles moving is very important. So whether it's writing every day or every few days, and for me personally, it's often journaling, which removes the pressure from creating like a golden nugget of truth every time you sit down to write. I think that can be kind of overwhelming. And then I do go through a pretty serious series of editing. I think part of the writing experience is alternately hating and liking what you've written, and being true to liking it and hating it as those sort of cycles move through. And I think those are the authorial audiences that I'm listening to, are this binary. You guys are all going to think that I am schizophrenic now. This idea of trying to balance both of those, I think, is where I'm moving most toward.
Curious about your interest in writing poetry. What spurred that, or what got
caused that indeed? That's a great question. I am a real introvert. I'm very shy. Most of this is a learned behavior. And I think that writing became a way for me to make sense of things very early on, particularly journaling. You may know that I think I had my first journal when I was around 7 years old. So externalizing things on paper made the most sense to me, and I think that's also evident in this book here in terms of grappling with something and trying to make sense of it by externalizing. But I feel like it was just something I was compelled to do. I don't think there was necessarily a turning point that it's like, oh, well, you're going to write things now. Oh, yeah, sorry. I would love to say some things about Menagerie. I have a little online literary journal that is very slow moving in terms of publishing things, but what we like to do, Steve Woodward and I, who are friends we met here at BYU, are looking at interesting pieces of language, essentially, and are not as concerned with pigeonholing work into a form, prose, or poetry in terms of what we like to publish, but we do like to publish just a few things that we think are interesting that might otherwise be lost in a 100-page perfect bound journal. And we are attempting to do that maybe twice a year, and you should check it out, menageriemagazine.com. Thanks for the plug. I feel like I seeded that. That would have been cooler. Thank you. Really good questions. I haven't been back to Japan. I would really like to. I have had several friends read the book. And in fact, Akira, who I don't know if you met while you were there, he actually drew. So one of the people that I worked with in the school actually drew all of the katakana and the kanji for me in the book. And that actually ended up being really meaningful, and I sent this to him and a few other friends in Japan. They felt like it was very confusing. I feel like it's confusing anyway. So, but they were, as always, very generous in their response to it. So. I would. I would say that it is impossible for me to write something that I don't know anything about, and the things that I know the best are the things that I've experienced. I wouldn't say that all of it is necessarily a memoir. However, I feel like that sort of innate understanding of something is, without it, things that I write feel very hollow. Does that answer your question? Yeah. I didn't hear all of that, but did you ask, do I feel apprehensive about sharing? Yes. Yes. Short answer, yes. Longer answer. I felt fine with the book coming out in terms of people that I don't know reading it. Allowing my parents to read it was very scary for me. Understanding that people, fellow Americans in Japan that I had been with might be reading this was also something that I met with trepidation. So yes. Nothing risked, nothing gained, right?
How long did the editing
About 2 years. I spent a lot of time working and reworking, and a lot of that was formatting and deciding what sort of formatting I wanted to adhere to. I would, as a writer, sort of start out with one mode and 30 pages later be in a totally different punctuational style. So kind of working through those things were an issue. But it did take a long time, and I think it's okay for people's work to require a long gestational process. Great questions. Do we have time for one more, maybe? Is there any last one, or was that it? Oh.
So in the book, we had a little pre-reading for those in the class, but it'll be like figure, and then are there actual pictures in the book, or is it all just imagination?
It's all just referential. So, yeah. Great question. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.